What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Too Pop to Handle. I'm your host, Andrew Nucatola, your pop culture best friend. And as always, I hope you guys are having a fabulous week. We are so back. My deepest apologies for skipping last week. I had full intentions to record an episode before I went away. And then, life just happened, as we'll get into in a second. I have had such a busy week and a half, week and change, 2 weeks, whatever you want to call it. It has been kind of nonstop, but like in a good way. It's all good things. Very too pop to handle. Let me tell you, my week has been very too pop to handle, and it is only going to continue to get more too pop to handle. Is that the right way to say that? You know what I mean. It is just, there's a lot going on. It is all good things. But again, hello, what is up? I hope you guys are doing well. Happy Pride. We have made it to June, which is crazy because that means we are almost halfway through the year. Let's not talk about it. I hope everybody is having fun celebrating Pride. I know we're only a few days in, but Pride doesn't stop for anybody. So I hope everybody is being safe. Everybody is having a good time. Everybody is celebrating their Pride. I feel like this year, more than most years, it's really important to get out there, celebrate, and just like remind everybody that we are here because there's some scary shit going on, with the current state of our country. And I think now more than ever, we need to use our gay, our queer, our lesbian, our trans, our bisexual, our ally, all of our voices and just remind them like, hey, don't forget about us, bitch, because we're not going anywhere. So happy Pride, everybody. Like I said, it has been a very busy week in the life of Andrew Nucatola. Over here at Too Pop to Handle HQ, we have been go, go, go. Bus, club, another club, no sleep, nonstop. So let's get into it. Since we've last spoke, I have seen the Cowboy Carter Tour 3 times. I went to New Orleans for a weekend. I have heard Cynthia Erivo's new album a week early in a room with 25 people, including Cynthia herself. And I started a really, really cool and exciting new job that I cannot wait to tell you guys all about. So let's take it from the top. Last time we spoke, I was telling you guys how I was going to Cowboy Carter, going away for the weekend. So I went to MetLife Night 1 for Cowboy Carter, which was unbelievable. My boyfriend and I had side view seats. We got there and we got to our section and it was closed. And there was a man standing there, very nice man. And he said, you know what? It is your lucky day. Everybody in this section is getting upgraded. And we got upgraded to 2 sections over and had like the most insane view. It was unbelievable. And this show, you guys, let me just tell you, like, I have seen Beyonce now after the 3 shows that I went to for Cowboy Carter. I have seen Beyonce live 10 times. And every time I see her, I'm like, there's no way she's going to top this, right? Like, there's no way she is going to get better and give us a better show. And just like, somehow she always comes out on top. And I mean, it is Beyonce. I should not be surprised at this point. I have been standing the woman for pretty much my entire life. But like, I am just always in such awe of the stage show that she puts on, from the vocals to the choreography, to the production, to the lighting, to the props, to the interludes. The interludes alone were like a cinematic experience. Like, this show is seriously next level. And I say that about every tour she does, but like, I mean it. Like, it really just somehow always gets leveled up every time she does a new tour, and the Cowboy Carter Tour was no exception. Like I said, I did go 3 times, which some people might think is excessive. I think it is a perfect amount of time to see Beyonce when she is on tour because she is the greatest living performer and potentially the greatest performer of all time. So I'm going to see her as much as I can. And it was just seriously like a once in a life, I guess 3 in a lifetime opportunity to see this show. And I was going to take every single one. I sat in the same section for 2 nights. So the first night and the last night, my boyfriend and I were in the same seats. And then the middle show that I went to was actually the rain show, which seeing Beyonce in the pouring rain was a religious experience. Like, it was otherworldly. Yeah, it was cold and yeah, I was wet, but like, it was just like, it felt so spiritual. And as somebody who is not religious, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get it now. Like, I understand what you guys are talking about. And then for that show in the rain, I was actually up in the 300s, which originally I was like, whatever, it's a cheap seat. I'm happy to be there. But being able to see the show from like a bird's eye perspective, I was like up there. I've posted videos on my pages. So if you want to see like my views from every night, you can go check out my Instagram, my TikTok, they're all there. Being able to see the show up close is wonderful. And of course, is the preferred way to see it. But being able to like take a step back and see the show all the way at the top was truly, it was such a different experience. And that's what I meant. If you guys remember when the tour got announced, God, what was that? February, I want to say, whenever it was announced, I was saying like, we have pretty cheap seats, which we began with and we ended up upgrading, but I was fine with being up in the 200 to 300 because Beyonce is such a visual artist. And no matter where you sit for Beyonce, you are going to have the time of your life, not just because she is an incredible performer, but because of the fact that she truly can fill a stadium so incredibly. Like, she just has the stage presence. She has the stage itself is massive. The lights, the production, the dancers, there is so much going on that like there's so much to take in. And I'm actually really glad that I took that beat back and I was kind of sitting in the back seat up at the top and was able to really take everything in that night, because it was like a whole new show being able to see everything from that perspective. It was wonderful. It was fabulous. We are so lucky to be alive at the same time as Beyonce. So I went to MetLife night one. That was on Thursday. Friday, I was going to record an episode. And then I was like, I need to pack. I need to do laundry. I need to get things done. Because on Saturday morning at like 4 a.m., we woke up and we flew to New Orleans. We went to a wedding. Thomas, my boyfriend's family. It was so much fun. I had the time of my life. We were there for 4 days and 3 nights. So we left on Saturday, came back on Tuesday. And like, you guys know I can party. I love a drink. I love a dance floor. I love going out. New Orleans is not for the weak. Let me tell you, by the 4th day, I looked at Thomas and I was like, if we do not leave today, I am not going to make it. Like, I was exhausted, and like, for a good reason. Like, we were there for a wedding, so we were out with his family and the bride and groom's friends. And like, you know, we were having the best time. And I don't regret a single night where we were up until 2, 3 a.m., like going down Bourbon Street, just like wreaking havoc. But like, it is not for the weak. Like, it truly was just rally, rally, rally. But the city itself, we did take a lot of time, even though we were kind of hungover some of the days. We were like, we're not going to waste our time here. Like, we wanted to really take in the Garden District and kind of, you know, just take in like what New Orleans has to offer. And I'm so glad that we didn't like let that stop us, because it was such a wonderful city. There was just so much like history and just like the vibes there. I hate to be like the vibes, but the vibes in New Orleans were just fantastic. Everybody was so nice. The food was incredible. It was truly some of the best food I've ever eaten in my life. The food, the people, the music, it was truly magical. If you have not been to New Orleans and you want to like experience a completely unique, yeah, I was like, why did I say that wrong? No, a completely unique city, book a trip. It was wonderful. And I'm already like, when do we go back? It was so much fun. We got back from New Orleans on Tuesday, Wednesday night, and Thursday night. I went to Beyonce again. Yes, I know I'm insane. You know what? You only live once. And then Friday, I went to New Jersey to sleep at my best friend's house to go to a baby shower on Saturday in like southern New Jersey. So Ayler, I know you are always listening to this, which I always appreciate so much, but congratulations again on your little one that we are welcoming into the world. I'm so excited to have a new little one in the Big Chill family. If you've been listening for a while, you know the story of the Big Chill. It is my friend group from high school is what we call ourselves. It was such a beautiful shower. We had so much fun. And we all kind of had that realization this weekend that we have all been friends for so long. So doing these big milestones, I mean, everybody in the group except for me has gotten married. This is the first baby we're welcoming into the group. Like, just being able to like celebrate these big milestones with people that I was in middle school with, or elementary with some of these people. It's just so special. And I had such a fabulous time celebrating this little bundle of joy that is coming into the world. And then I came home Saturday night, slept, woke up on Sunday, and we had a birthday party for my friend Nicole for her golden birthday. She was turning 31 on the 31st, and she did this fabulous little dinner party down in the East Village. I think it was called Cafe Sky. It was so much fun. It was like this private little dining space. She decorated it so cute with these really funky candles and wildflower bouquets. It was so much fun. The food was great. The people were great. Seriously, just like 10 out of 10 week and weekend and experience. And then yesterday rolled around, and I started a new job, which I have actually known about for about a month now, but I didn't want to say anything on the podcast. Just, you never know what's going to happen until you start a job. So I was like, I'm going to keep it hush. I'm not going to tell them, and I will tell everybody once I start. And yesterday was my first day, and I'm so excited to let you guys know that I am officially the associate producer on the VMA and I Love MTV social channels for the summer, which, if you know me, you know how much I love the VMAs. I always joke and say they're like Christmas in September. Like, they are one of my favorite days of the year. So to have this opportunity to work on the back end of the show and help with the social content and help with, you know, planning out how we're going to roll out voting and things like that, I am just so excited, and it's going to be such a fun little summer experience. And I keep saying to everybody, it feels like the universe, this was meant to happen. You know, it was like the universe screaming in my face. I got laid off on April 8th, and then I got this job offer on May 8th. So like, it just feels so serendipitous. And the fact that like I would never have a summer off like this had I not gotten laid off. Like I wouldn't typically have 4 months of free time to take a temporary job like this where, you know, I'm doing such a cool experience, but it's not a full-time, you know, long-term gig. It is just for the summer. But I think, you know, the universe was universing, and I am just so excited for this opportunity. Obviously, can't say much about like the job because it's all confidential and things like that, but I can obviously let you guys know that I am doing it, and I will be working on the VMA and their Isle of MTV, in Malta accounts this summer. So I am so excited. Not sure how VMA coverage is going to go this year for the podcast, because obviously that is my job and I do have to prioritize that. And like, you know, we will see like how that plays into the show, but it'll be fun to kind of give you guys like a recap, I think, of like the whole experience and the show and things like that. So really, really excited. I'm so looking forward to the summer. I keep joking and being like, I'm going to MTV summer camp. Like, it's going to be so much fun. I am so excited. And as if Monday couldn't even get more exciting, I spent my Monday night with Cynthia Erivo. Yes, Elphaba, Tony winning, Grammy winning, Emmy winning, Cynthia Erivo. It was wonderful. Republic Records invited me to it was like a special event, a special night, with Cynthia Erivo to celebrate her new album that's coming out on Friday called I Forgive You. It had to be one of the most intimate listening experiences that I've ever been to. I've been to a handful. I've always talked about them with you guys. I've been, you know, Miley, Halsey. I've been to a few, and this was so intimate. We were really literally just sitting in a circle. There were candles lit. The lights were dim. It was like maybe 25 of us in the room. Like, it was such an intimate experience. And Cynthia played the entire album from start to finish. We got to ask her questions during, you know, in between the songs about the production style and the songwriting and the lyrics and, you know, why she did this or why she wrote this or how she was feeling when she wrote this. And it really just gave such a really unique and cool like vision for the album. You guys know I'm all about, you know, knowing about why you did this production choice or how you wrote this lyric and things like that. And it was just so cool to get like a firsthand answer from her. And any opportunity I had to ask a question, I was like, so why did you do this? And how did you do this? And she was so kind and so attentive to every single person in that room. And if you had a question and the song had started already, she'd be like, wait, turn it off. We have a question. Like, she was so willing to just like talk to all of us and answer all of our questions. She was seriously so incredibly kind. So thank you so much to my friends over at Republic Records for that invite. It was seriously such a wonderful way to spend my Monday night. And that's where I've been. That's what I've been up to. It has been seriously so busy and so insane. And like, I feel like it just like go, go, go. And like I said, the rest of the week is very go, go, go as well. But I'll fill you in on that next week because we're already yapping for like 12, 13 minutes, I think now. So we're going to, you know, keep the ball rolling. But that is where I have been. It has been so much fun, so exciting. I'm so excited to just like see where this summer takes me with this new role at MTV and just, you know, really take this experience and just make the most of it. It's going to be so much fun. And I just love the VMAs. You know, I love all of this pop culture stuff and, you know, album listening parties and things like that. It's what I love to do and what I love being a part of. So the fact that like this is what my life is becoming and what I'm doing is really cool. So just really fun. And, you know, it's one of those moments where I'm like, how did I end up here? But then I'm like, I know how I ended up here because I've worked for this and you know, this is what we're doing. So it's one of those like pinch me moments, you know, really exciting. But enough about me. We have not talked in about 2 weeks now and I have so much to talk about. So you guys know the drill. We're going to hop right into the show and talk about our Drew releases, some new music releases from last week and our new music releases coming up this week. It is a big week for music. And I am going to throw in, I think 1 or 2, I believe. I feel like my dates are all over the place, but I'm going to throw in 2 releases that weren't necessarily released last week, but I do just want to talk about them. First things first, we had Reneé Rapp, who I know this was like 2 weeks ago now, and I did release a reaction video to this music video and this song. And if you can't tell by the title of this episode, Reneé is the woman of the hour. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I just want to say, obsessed with this song. I am so excited for this album and this era, but more about Reneé later. I just needed to, you know, make sure I covered it just a little bit, like a drop in the bucket to, you know, just clear the air on that because I am obsessed. But like I said, there is a reaction video up on our YouTube page, so you can go check that out if you want to. I had such a fun time reacting to that song because she just kept gagging us line after line after line. More about Reneé in just a little bit. Next up, we had Miss Lorde, who released Man of the Year, the second single from her upcoming album, Virgin. You guys know I am stoked for this album, and I really, really like this single. I definitely like What Was That more, just because I'm more of like an upbeat, that's more of my vibe. However, loving this single. I think it's really showing us the different kind of sounds and vibes we're going to get on this album. And it really is opening up the doors of like what she's going to cover. We already know this is going to be a really personal and kind of raw, stripped back album for Lorde. She already told us that like she really was just like stripping down to the bone and like as real as she can get. And, she's playing around with her, or not playing around, but talking about her gender expression and her sexuality and, things like that, and how she's kind of coming into this new version of herself, or, the story of her coming into this new version. And I think this song, Man of the Year, it's in the title right there. It's like she's clearly not a man, but she did, we know how some days she feels like a man, some days she feels like a woman. Is kind of this gender euphoria that she's experiencing. I think the song was wonderful. I think it was a great follow-up to What Was That? And I'm really excited to see what other sounds and kind of, vibes she plays with. When I was talking about this album, it was on the last episode, she said in Rolling Stone that this album, she thought about the sounds before the lyrics. And there's so many playful sounds and production choices. And even just in What Was That and Man of the Year, we're hearing a really experimental, I think is the word I'm looking for, like playing around with different sounds and music and notes and things like that. So I'm really excited to see what this whole body of work looks like. I feel like we are 3 weeks out from the album coming out. I'm not sure if we'll get another single. I'm trying to think in the past. For Solar Power, we got 1 or 2. I think Melodrama, we got 2, maybe 3 before the album came out. No, it was 2 before the album came out. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. We usually get 2, maybe 3. So I'm not sure if we're going to get another single before that album comes out. But regardless, very excited for that. Fully going to do an album analysis of that, and I cannot wait to dive into that album. It's going to be good. The next release that we had is Addison Rae, Fame is a Gun, the 4th or 5th single, I want to say, from her upcoming album that comes out this Friday. It's called Addison. Loving it. Just loving everything Addison is selling for this era. She is giving us pop perfection, Y2K, exactly what we need in the pop space right now. I am obsessed. Her album, like I said, comes out on Friday. I am actually going to get an early listening of it tomorrow. So I will be posting on my Instagram and TikTok all about the experience on there. So if you want to hear about the album before it comes out, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram, because I'll be filling you guys in from the listening party tomorrow night, or it's actually tonight, the day that you're listening to this. So excited for that. It's going to be so much fun, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Loving this. I just think she's really just having fun with her music, and she's not following a specific pattern. These songs have been coming out for months now. It's been a while that she's been releasing these singles and kind of, teasing that there's an album or there's not. And now we're finally getting it. And I'm so excited to see what a full album from Addison Rae looks like. Really, really excited for that. And then the final release that we got last week, the big one, Miss Miley Cyrus, Something Beautiful. You guys know I had heard this album, about a month ago. Actually, I think it was a month ago today, just about, at the exclusive screening with Spotify. And I told you guys I loved it then. And I'm going to tell you, I love it now. This album is perfect to me. I absolutely love it. I love the vocal style she chose on it. I love the production. I love the lyrics. I love just the way that she plays around with these interludes and all the different genres. And I hope everybody understands what I was saying when this album starts at point A and really takes you to point B by the end. There's such a journey on this album. It is fabulous. I am obsessed with it. And actually, very exciting announcement. I'm going to record an album analysis this weekend with another podcast. We're doing a little pod swap. So they're going to come on my podcast. I'm going to go on theirs. We're going to record that this weekend. And I'm so excited. All 3 of us actually, it's the Talk Miley to Me podcast. We all were at the Something Beautiful screening, and we had commented on each other's stuff before, but we never met. And then we met at that screening. And after that, I was like, I've got to bring them on, because we all had that experience of the screening. And now that the album's out, we're going to go track by track, break it down. If you've been here for a while, I did it for Cowboy Carter, Tortured Poets, Short and Sweet, Mayhem. I do this for, the big albums that come out. So that is coming next week, a bonus episode. So that's why I kind of was I know I skipped a week last week, but you guys are going to get a lot of content from me in June between regular episodes between Miley's album, no, I'm not doing Addison, I'm sorry, Miley's album, Lord's album. Like there's a lot of stuff coming this month. So I was like, I'm going to take a breather before June starts, and I'm just like running a marathon. So very excited for that, but I am loving this album. And now that it is out and I've kind of told you guys my thoughts about it over the last few weeks, I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, you can comment. You can always tweet me. You can always send me a DM on Instagram. I want to know your thoughts on this album because I think it's really thought-provoking, and there's something for everybody on this album, but it works so cohesively, if that makes sense. There's a lot of different sounds, a lot of different genres, but I think it really comes together beautifully as a full-rounded project. So I'm so excited to go through this album track by track with Molly and Becky from Talk Miley to Me. I think that should be out on Monday. So keep an eye out on my Instagram. I'll let you guys know when it's live, of course. Cannot wait for that. And that wraps up our releases from last week. Let's dive into the releases coming up this week because, as I said, we have a stacked week coming up. So going through the singles first, we have Mariah Carey's new single from her first album in 7 years coming out on Friday. So I'm very excited for that. It is her 16th studio album, which is crazy to say for any artist. So really curious to see like what sound she's going to go for. Like I said, she hasn't released an album in 7 years. So it's been some time since she released a new body of work. Of course, she's done remixes and singles and, you know, she's been active, but we haven't gotten like a new full studio album since 2018. So I'm really excited to see what is in store for that. We also have Sabrina Carpenter coming to save the summer and like give us a song in the summer, which I was not expecting. She started teasing a new single called Man Child yesterday, and she posted like a teaser. She was like hitching a ride, looking for, you know, a ride to wherever she's going. I don't know where. She was in the desert, going somewhere, trying to get a ride in like a giant truck. And then billboards started going up along Route 69, which like, she is so fucking funny. Everything she does is so well done and I'm obsessed with. But the billboards read, I swear they choose me, I'm not choosing them. Another one said amen. Another one said hey man. And then it had a new Sabrina Carpenter SC logo on it. So kind of signifying a new era, which is really interesting because she still has short and sweet shows coming up later this year. So I'm curious how she's going to play around with that. But she is releasing a new single and she's actually performing at Primavera Sound. So if you think back to last year, she released Espresso right before she did Coachella. And then she released Please, Please, Please right before she did Gov Ball. And if we look at, you know, the way that those two songs did, they kind of dominated the year last year. I feel like Man Child is kind of coming for the song of the summer. That drops on Thursday. Very excited to see what is in store for Miss Sabrina Carpenter and this next era or whatever, you know, she's going. We already got Short and Sweet Deluxe. So it's not like there's another leg of Short and Sweet, the album. So I'm really curious to see like how this plays into it and like what's next for Sabrina. Maybe it's just a one-off single. Maybe it's like a Good Luck Babe like Chapel did last year and she just wanted to give us something new to look forward to on tour. Who knows? Regardless, I am seated. I am sat. I will definitely be recording a reaction video to that. So that should be up on my YouTube. It's coming out Thursday night. So I'll probably have it up Friday morning. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be up sometime this weekend. And then in terms of albums, like I said, we have Addison Rae's new album, Addison, coming out on Friday. Cynthia Erivo's new album, I Forgive You, coming out on Friday. And then we have Marina releasing Princess of Power. Really big weekend. We are kicking off Pride Weekend with a bang with these pop girls, and I am so excited. And that wraps up our Drew releases. Now, before we head into our moments from the week that were just too pop to handle, I just always love to remind you guys that it is $0, free 99 to leave me a 5-star rating or a review, or to like this video and drop a comment on YouTube. Leaving a review, leaving a comment is really the best way to help support the show. It helps me, you know, get into other algorithms and get shown to other podcast listeners or other YouTube people, like YouTube watchers. So it really is so helpful. And I've been getting a lot of love on YouTube lately. So thank you guys so much. To my podcast listeners, thank you guys. I've been seeing you guys leaving ratings and reviews. So join the club, join the fun, and leave me a 5-star rating, leave me a 5-star review. I would love to hear from you guys. And it really does mean the world to me. With that, let's hop into our moments from the week that were just too pop to handle, some pop culture rapid fire, kicking it off with probably the biggest news of the week last week. And when I saw this, I truly was like, let's clap it up. This is major. Taylor Swift officially owns every single piece of music video, concert film, everything she has ever done in her life. She officially owns again. So Taylor's versions are no more. Everything is now Taylor's. And when I tell you, listening to the original version of these Taylor albums again, after not listening to them since they were stolen from her, it feels like I'm doing drugs. Like it truly has been. So I'm having like a whole renaissance with these albums and these songs. And like, not that I didn't listen to the Taylor's versions, but honestly, like I definitely didn't have them in rotation as much as I used to have, Taylor's albums. I'm going to say it. I didn't love the Taylor's versions as much as I love the originals. And I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I think in the time when we didn't have the stolen versions or now the reclaimed versions, whatever, I was like, I'm not going to say that because like she obviously is doing this because she has to. I'm not going to shit on her while she's already down. Like why kick the girl while she has to re-record all of her music? But like, I don't think it's an unpopular opinion to be like, oh, I didn't love the Taylor's versions as much as I love the originals. And I, for one, am so thrilled that we can finally go back and listen to the original versions. The first song I listened to as soon as I saw the post, I put on New Romantics and I blasted it at 100 volume. You guys know that is probably my number one favorite Taylor Swift song. And as soon as I knew I could listen to the original 2014 version of New Romantics, I was like, give it to me, put it in an IV, inject it into my veins. And then I was like, listen, I was getting on the train to go to my friend's house, like I was saying, to go to New Jersey. And I put on just like Taylor's discography on shuffle. And it just felt like I had never heard these songs before. Like it was such a euphoric experience. And I know that's not like a unique thing. I know everybody was saying Better Than Revenge, Style, like listening to all of these songs again after not listening. I didn't listen. I don't know if you guys listened to the original versions while, this whole was going on. I'm not judging you. I could care less. I know there's some Swifties who would jump down your throat. I get it. I personally was like, I'm just not going to engage. It is what it is. But like for us who didn't listen for the however many years, what was it, 6 years, I want to say, since, it was 2019, since she had everything taken from her, like it really felt like we were listening to these songs for the first time again. And it was just memories flooding back. And like, it was just so joyous. And I'm so happy that Taylor has all of her music back again. I hate everybody who's like, oh, she made everybody buy all these re-recording, da-da-da. She had no other choice. Like, what? Why are we kicking this woman? Like, why are we acting like this isn't something to celebrate? Whatever. They can, they're always going to have some type of bitchy thing to say about Taylor Swift. Again, and now, of course, thinking of bitchy things about Taylor Swift, people are like, what do you mean we're not going to get Rep TV? What do you mean, da-da-da? Honestly, As much as I was excited for Reputation's Taylor's version, I was excited for it because I wanted to listen to these songs again, like guilt-free, without like having to be like, well, Reputation, like I can't really listen to it without feeling like, wow, I'm putting money in somebody else's pocket. And then when I was looking at like the songs and the lyrics and like listened to it the other day, I was like, she is fully with a new man. And if she was to re-record Reputation with these songs like New Year's Day, Delicate, like Please Don't Ever Become a Stranger, whose laugh I could recognize anywhere, is not about Travis Kelce. And to re-record the album that is about the almost husband, like that would not have been fun or easy for anybody. And like, not that, of course on her other albums, like she was singing about her exes and things like that, but Joe was such a different case. Joe Alwyn, obviously, was such a different case. We thought that was Endgame. Literally track one, like or track two, we all were like, this is it. Like they're going to get married. And like people thought they were married. They were together for 6-7 years. Like, it's different with Joe. And I think like what she said, she was like, I was in such a different headspace with Reputation. The whole world, it seemed like turned on her. Kim and Kanye, it was like the height of that whole drama. She was obviously with Joe. She was like hidden for years. It was like this whole moment. And it was like, it felt like such a different era for Taylor Swift because it was dark and it was black and it was snakes and it was like such a different vibe than Speak Now and Red and Fearless, like it was just a different energy. And reading her note or letter and hearing that she's like, I was not in that. I couldn't put myself in that headspace again. Like that's not who I am today, which is a good thing. Let's all, let's remind ourselves it's a good thing to not be, back in that headspace where she must have been at when she thought the world was turning on her and all of that jazz. That being said, yeah, it sucks we're not going to get the whole, the vault tracks or whatever, but I would honestly be really down with like a vault album if she just released like the Reputation, maybe a few other vault tracks if she wanted to, or like do an EP, maybe like Reputation from the Vault EP or something like that. Maybe she'll do that. Personally, I am fine without a Reputation's Taylor version. I'm even fine without debut Taylor's version, but like if it's already recorded, she might as well put it out. So I do think that'll probably be like for the 20th anniversary next next October, November, whenever that is, for 2026. So I think that would make most sense to do it for the 20-year anniversary. And since it's recorded, you might as well put it out. Like, it's just going to sit there otherwise. But very exciting to see that Taylor has, everything back and she's able to play her music, and we'll get the Reputation Stadium documentary back or movie back on Netflix, or now we can finally get these things back that kind of were stolen from us too, and they were stolen from Taylor. And then, of course, people are spiraling because there's a second letter underneath the top letter, and then there's 12 eyes in the word time. I also understand the excitement, and I, too, am like, okay, 12 eyes is very peculiar. The second letter is very peculiar. However, I'm not going to expect a new album from Taylor anytime soon. I think the album is probably written and mostly done, if not fully done. I just don't think we're going to get it as soon as some people are expecting. I think, let's relish in this. Let's enjoy these albums and, revisit them for the first time in 6 years. It's been a minute since we've been able to listen to these albums without thinking about Scooter Braun. We can finally listen to 1989 and all of these albums without being like, fuck, this is stolen. It's exciting. So I think it's a time to relish and enjoy these old albums. And TS12 will come eventually, whether it's this year, next year, we will get it when it is ready. I think this letter and this whole ending of the Taylor's version era, if we know anything from it or learn anything from it, rather, we should just remember that we will get things when Taylor wants us to get them. We should stop clowning. We should stop counting things and this and that. We will get it when we were supposed to get it. Let's not rush the woman. Let's let her live her life. She did just get off the longest tour that pretty much anybody has ever done in their life. It felt like, very exciting news, very exciting week to be a Taylor Swift fan. So loved that. Moving on to the next moment of the week that was just too pop to handle. This was actually a moment that happened last week. And I was honestly I guess I just let it go. We don't talk about it because it's kind of old news. And I don't like to talk about old news on the show. And then we got a follow up and I was like, bitch, we are so back. Patti LuPone. If you're not a Broadway person, if you're not into this, I understand. I apologize. Just give me a few minutes to theater geek out. It is very interesting tea. So I do think this is something that everybody can enjoy because it's just drama. And I mean, who doesn't love a little tea when you can get it? So if you don't know, I'll give you the TLDR. Patti LuPone did a profile with The New Yorker. I want to say it was a week ago, just about. And it was, or maybe 2 weeks ago. And it was to help promote, she's on the new season of And Just Like That. And, just to kind of get an update from Patti LuPone, who is a Broadway legend. There's no denying who Patti LuPone is in that sense. But she had some unfavorable things to say about some other Broadway legends, and it really threw the Broadway and theater community into a tizzy. So essentially, she talked about how when she went to go see Hell's Kitchen, the Alicia Keys jukebox musical, this had to be 2 years ago, she complained that the show was too loud. She was next door seeing another show. It was a play, I believe, and she was saying that Hell's Kitchen was too loud. We could hear it through the walls. So she called the stage manager of that show and said, you need to lower the volume of the mics, of the orchestra, of everything, because we can hear it next door, and bullied them into making the show quieter. Which yeah, I get it. Maybe it was interrupting your show a little bit, but all right, let's not abuse our power. They complied and listened to what Patti was saying, but Kecia Lewis, who is also a Broadway legend, has been on Broadway since the 80s, posted a video saying that, hey, this felt like bullying from Patti LuPone and felt like a microaggression because this show is, if not completely a black cast, a predominantly black cast. So she was saying that this was a microaggression and, it was bullying. And they why are you complaining about our noise levels? She got a lot of support and love from it. So the interviewer asked Patti about it, and she said, here's the problem. She calls herself a veteran. Let's find out how many Broadway shows Kecia Lewis has done, because she doesn't know who the fuck she's talking about. She's done 7. I've done 31. Don't call yourself a vet, bitch. And now, like I said, Kecia Lewis has been on Broadway since the 80s. Whether you do 1 Broadway show, 10 Broadway shows, 30 Broadway shows, you've been on Broadway since the 80s. You are a Broadway vet. And she's actively still working. Mind you, she literally just won the Tony for Hell's Kitchen for featured actress in a Broadway musical last year. So she is doing a standout job in this show. The show is doing really well. And for Patti to just be so aggressive and again, bullying kind of response to what she said. It just was such like an evil spirit. And at the time, Audra McDonald, who is currently starring in Gypsy on Broadway as Mama Rose, commented, I think she commented like clapping hand emojis or something. She was like applauding what Kecia was saying. So the interviewer asked Patti how she felt about Audra commenting in on this because she's another huge name in Broadway. And she said, I thought you should know better, but that's typical of Audra. She's not a friend, hard D. So that kind of sent the world into a spiral, the Broadway theater world. It was just like, Patti LuPone is known for these crazy hot takes and not afraid to speak her mind. And I am the first person, you guys know on this podcast, I'm the first person to tell someone, act like a diva, be a diva, stand up for yourself. Chappell Roan, Doechii, Reneé Rapp, we'll talk about in just a little bit. Like, I am the first person to applaud somebody for acting like a diva, but there is a line where you go from being a diva to being a bully. And this profile just crossed that line so incredibly far. We're not even like a foot over the line. We are yards over the line between being a diva and being a bully. And it was just like really jarring reading this. So that was the news from last week. And I was like, all right, I guess we're not going to talk about it because I'm not recording. It is what it is. However, Kecia Lewis and Audra McDonald have both responded, as well as Patti LuPone. Kecia Lewis, ever so gracefully, decided to walk down 44th Street and Broadway and point out that every single show on that strip is led by a Black woman. They had Gypsy, Purpose, Boop, Sunset Boulevard. She so gracefully walked down the street and pointed out every Tony-nominated, award-winning, actress, Pulitzer Prize winning show, Purpose, that was led by a Black woman, which was just such a like a sly way to obviously, you know, throw the shade back at Patti. But then the big kicker was Miss Class Act Audra McDonald, 6-time Tony winning Audra McDonald, who is currently starring in the Broadway revival of Gypsy, famously known as the best Broadway show in the world. Not in my take, but that is what people call it. And Mama Rose is one of the most coveted roles to play, formerly played by Patti LuPone. Audra did a sit-down interview with Gayle King, and when asked about the controversy, she said, if there's a rift between us, that's something you have to ask Patti about. I haven't seen her in about 11 years just because of life, so I don't know what she's talking about. You'd have to ask her. She said it so gracefully, such a smile on her face, such a class act, and that is how you handle a bully. The way that these two women didn't lash out. They didn't say anything crazy. They just protected their peace, said what they needed to say, and kept the ball rolling. Because at the end of the day, like I said, Tony Award winning Audra McDonald has 6 Tony Awards. What is she doing worried about this New Yorker profile, you know? And don't get me wrong, I love Patti as much as the next gay man in their 30s. Like, Patti LuPone is a Broadway legend. There is no denying, there is no ifs, ands, or buts. However, there is that line that is being crossed. And when these women are finally, you know, putting their foot down so gracefully, you have to applaud this behavior because they are being so, just taking the high road. Patti could have done. Patti did not need to mention this so viciously in this profile. So to see them respond like that, I was like, absolutely. Then it continues. There was a letter, an open letter that 500 Broadway artists signed asking Patti LuPone for respect and for the Tonys, which are happening this Sunday, to uninvite her. So it really put that fire under the entire theater world's ass to be like, hold her accountable. Yes, you are Patti LuPone. You have given us so many iconic roles and wonderful performances. However, that doesn't make it okay to be a fucking bitch and be a bully to all of these people. And then, I want to say 24 hours later, we got an apology from Miss Patti LuPone, which, let me just say, getting an apology from Patti LuPone is like hell freezing over. Like, this is a huge deal. Does it excuse what she said? Absolutely not. But the fact that she did go online and acknowledge that she was wrong and apologize is a big deal. So I'll read you guys the apology, and then, That's really all we have to say from that. But, we'll close it up nicely. So she posted on Instagram. She said, "For as long as I worked in theater, I have spoken my mind and have never apologized. That is changing today. I am deeply sorry for the words that I used during the New Yorker interview, particularly about Kecia Lewis, who were demeaning and disrespectful. I regret my flippant and emotional responses during this interview, which were inappropriate, and I am devastated that my behavior has offended others and has run counter to what we hold dear in this community. I hope I have the chance to speak to Audra and Kecia personally to offer my apologies. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that was written in the open letter shared yesterday. From middle school drama clubs to professional stages, theater has always been about uplifting each other and welcoming those who feel like they don't belong anywhere else. I made a mistake. I take full responsibility for it, and I'm committed to making this right. Our entire theater community deserves better. Patti LuPone." Now, of course, very PR forward. This is obviously written with her team, and we know how statements work. But I will say the fact that Patti went ahead and made this statement at all is huge. If you're a theater person, this is major. The fact that she even did this. I am just very curious to see how she kind of holds up to this and how she acts going forward, and if she's going to lash out the way that she does, and if she's going to, because Patti's known for speaking her mind and being unapologetically herself, which I love and I adore. But again, there is that line. So I'm really curious to see how this affects her going forward. And I'm really hoping to see that Patti starts to be more uplifting of people and not just tearing people down when it isn't necessarily the way that she wants it or isn't going Patti's way. Because yes, you are Patti LuPone, but we are all human beings at the end of the day. So I was very happy to see that Audra and Kecia responded so fabulously and so graciously. And I was very pleased to see that Patti, responded and made sure she was righting her wrongs or beginning to right her wrongs with everything going on. So that is, the Broadway drama. Thanks for sticking around for that, even if you're not a theater girl. But I told you the tea was hot. And wrapping it up with some other very hot tea. This is the final moment from the week that we're just too popped to handle before we get into the woman of the hour, Miss Reneé Rapp. We're talking about JoJo Siwa. So we talked about JoJo and her run on Celebrity Big Brother a few weeks ago with everything going on with the bullying she encountered and now everything with Chris Hughes and, whether they were together, whether they weren't. And as of this week, she sat down with the Guardian and confirmed her relationship with Chris Hughes. She said that it is not platonic anymore and it's in a beautiful development, a beautiful connection, and I'm absolutely head over heels for him and he's the same way. She said that when she was going into Big Brother, she knew that she wasn't going to win. She said to her mom and her grandmother, I believe she said, I don't think I'm going to win, but I think I'm going to change. Little did I know it was going to change my personal life so much by a landslide. It is the best thing that has ever happened to me. And now, of course, people are like, well, it's a PR stunt. They're just doing this to get the clicks and, keep the hype going because the two of them went in. Chris was attracted to men and JoJo was attracted to women. And now they're coming out in this relationship together, which I'm totally fine with. We'll get into, the bits, the nuts and bolts in just a second. But she said to anybody who thinks it is a PR stunt, clearly you've never been around us and I won't speak for him. But for me personally, the happiness in my life just radiates off of me right now. Literally yesterday, I had to massage my cheeks. I've never been in pain from smiling so much, which, when JoJo Siwa, when you look at the core, she grew up so fast. She was on Dance Mom, she was on Nickelodeon. And when I say she was on Nickelodeon, she was the biggest child star from that era. I mean, she had her face on everything, lip gloss, shampoos, very much the Hannah Montana effect. But JoJo was everywhere and she really had to grow up so fast, as so many of these child stars do. And when she came out, it was such a big deal, and she was in all that lesbian TikTok drama, and she's had her fair share of whatever is going on there. And she left her partner at the time, who I believe was going to propose to her after Big Brother, so sparking all these rumors. And listen, I am all for people being fluid and not necessarily knowing how they identify. I don't think there needs to be a label on things if you don't want there to be. If you are attracted to women and attracted to men or attracted to this, who gives a fuck? I don't care who you're sleeping with. I don't care what the situation is. I'm happy that JoJo is happy in this relationship and found this soulmate. So it seems they seem so happy together. And I'm genuinely very happy for the two of them. What I think is crazy, that she was on live television cheating on her partner. Is that not crazy? Yeah, maybe we didn't see if they did anything and maybe they didn't go further than just cuddling and being on top of each other. But you can literally go back and watch the two of them fall in love, which on one hand is cute, but on the other, like, she went into it with a full girlfriend. And I don't know if Chris was dating anybody at the time. The headlines are obviously all about JoJo because it's kind of like the bigger situation right now. But we literally, you can go back and watch her fall in love with somebody else while she has a full partner at home. And then when you think about the story, when the partner showed up to the rap party and JoJo told them to go home, and JoJo told them, like, I don't know if this is going to work anymore. Like, yeah, JoJo was in a weird situation, but like, it is wild that we were able to watch this all kind of fall out as it went on. And even when they got off the show, they were like, we are just best friends. We understand each other so much. And that was a month ago, I want to say. And now they're in a relationship, which again, I'm thrilled for her. If she's happy, that's all that matters. If the two of them are happy and they're content in their relationship, who cares about their label, who they identified with, who they dated in the past? I just think it is wild that like the headline is the two of them are dating and not the fact that like this woman just watched her girlfriend essentially fall in love with somebody else on television for however long Celebrity Big Brother is. I think it's like a month, maybe 2 months long. And like, the headline is like champion JoJo Siwa because she is, exploring her sexuality and is dating this man. And it just seems like every time JoJo's in a relationship, there's some type of drama tied to it. And again, this is no hate, no shade to JoJo Siwa, but it definitely is a common thread that there is always some type of big story and big drama and big this happened and they need an interview and it's like who made the TikTok with who and who broke up with who after the brat party, and it's always like a whole runaround. And maybe Chris Hughes and her are endgame. I don't know the two of them. None of us do. This is very out of my realm. Who knows how they actually are and if they're going to end up together and live happily ever after and ride along into the sunset. I don't really care. If they do, great. However, I am very curious to see how this relationship holds up. If in a year from now, we're going to be reading a story about JoJo Siwa dating a woman again, which is fine. It's not about who she's dating. It just feels like every time JoJo Siwa is dating somebody, it is the biggest drama and fallout, and they broke up after the rap party and this and the TikTok and the da. And it's just always a whole thing. And I'm like, at what point are they just going to like have a civil breakup and like move on to the next thing? Like, why can't it just be like, oh, JoJo Siwa's single, now she's dating somebody else? Again, taking the gender and the sex out of it and whatever. It's just always such a runaround with these relationships and everything. And it's just like, I understand shit happens and I understand relationships aren't easy, but like you're really making it hard for yourself, girl. I don't know what to tell you, but like it just seems like every time we're hearing about a JoJo Siwa relationship, it is like padded with drama. I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to switch from one lesbian to another. Moving on to our main part of the show, the woman of the hour, Miss Reneé Rapp, my favorite unmedia trained diva. I hope she never gets any media training because I just feel like she is back and better and gayer and messier than ever. I am obsessed. So there's been a lot going on with Reneé. Of course, she released her lead single from her new album, Bite Me, which comes out in August. The single is called Leave Me Alone. It came out about 2 weeks ago now. I am loving it, like I said at the top of the show. So I'm so excited for this new era. You guys know I'm a huge Reneé fan. I love her. She was like one of my top listened to artists the past 3 years. Like, I love Reneé down. Very excited for this new era. And there's been a lot going on. She performed at the AMAs. She was on Amy Poehler's podcast. She did a Cosmo interview. So we're going to dive into everything, kicking it off with the AMAs. And, I was kind of bummed that the AMAs happened a little bit out of my orbit and I couldn't talk about it because I didn't record last week. However, it was such a mess that I'm actually kind of happy that we're not talking about it because I just like... The only really good thing I have to say about it was Reneé Rapp's performance, So I'm like, you know what? Let's just talk about Reneé and how fabulous her performance was. I thought she looked great. She sounded great. I love the concept of it where she was like in that bathroom and the walls fell down and the dancing and she did that little like her kick up with the leg. There is nothing better than a Broadway girl turned pop star. And I will say that until the day that I die. Reneé Rapp is a prime example of what happens when you take somebody off of Broadway, put them in a studio and make a pop album or release, your music and do your thing. It's always going to eat. This performance was the saving grace of the AMAs. And I think it was such a great way to kick off this era. We're really going to get such like a raw, new view and new Reneé, I feel like, this era, and I am so ready for it. So moving right along, she was on Amy Poehler's podcast, Good Hang, and I love Amy Poehler and I love her podcast. I think it is such a great platform for people to go on because it just feels like friends chatting. Every episode is so good. We're not talking about Amy Poehler, though. We're talking about Reneé Rapp and her interview on there. So she opened up about what it was like coming out on SNL as a lesbian. If you remember, she did that skit and they called her the little lesbian intern, and it kind of was like her officially coming out as lesbian after identifying as bisexual, which, again, if we even look back at the whole JoJo story, I don't care about a label. I'm fine with anybody identifying how they want to, but I do know that that was such a big moment for Reneé. And she even said in this that she was worried that people were going to be mad at her or upset that like she was kind of pushing the bisexual thing to the side and coming out as a lesbian, which nobody should be mad at anybody for how they identify or how they choose to, who they choose to sleep with or anything like that. Like, I hate that that's kind of the stigma that like people are going to be let down or upset if somebody was bisexual and came out as gay or lesbian. It's like, it just, I hate the stigma around anybody just being like afraid to like give themselves a label or things like that. But she opened up about how that and like that was like in between Snow Angel and now Bite Me. So we're really going to start seeing this new, I feel like, era of Reneé in this new album cycle. And I think she's really the most comfortable. And again, this sounds parasocial, but it just seems as if she is the most comfortable and confident in herself, in her relationship, in her friendships, which she talks about in her Cosmo interview we'll talk about in a second. And it seems like she's making music that she's really proud of. Of course, she loved Snow Angel and she was really proud of it. But I feel like with that whole idea of like being kind of trapped in that label that she wasn't sure about and she wasn't thrilled with her relationships and her friendships and she was kind of surrounded by some people that like maybe weren't the best for her. It seems like she's in a really good place in that part, which in turn is going to give a great era because the music's going to be good. She's in a good headspace and it kind of, it sets everything up for a perfect situation. She also talked about how her and Toa Bird's relationship, it kind of started like a play hard to get cat and mouse kind of thing. And like Toa seemed uninterested and then Reneé was being flirty and like they had to kind of like volleyball back and forth with it. And now they're just like head over heels in love for each other. And I just think like the cat and mouse hard to get thing, what Reneé would want in a partner. Like when I was listening to this podcast, I was like, this is exactly how Reneé falls in love. Like she wants what she can't have, but she loves when they play into it kind of thing. It's just like the vibe that she gives me through her music and her interviews. You know, she's very just like, she chases what she wants. And like, I feel like we've seen in her interviews, like she's not going to let somebody tell her no. Like she's very much just like, I want this, I want that. I'm going to do what I have to do to get it. And I just like, as soon as I heard that story about how her and Toa met and like Toa played so hard to get and acted like too cool for school, I was like, this is exactly how I would picture Reneé Rapp wanting their partner to come on to them. Like it just made so much sense. And I love just kind of like learning more about their relationship and getting a little more personal with it. You know, we obviously know that they're together and they're in love, but like it's nice to hear the beginning stories and how it kind of all started for them. And moving into her Cosmo interview, she opened up a little bit more about just like where she is in her mindset compared to the last album she put out with her sexuality, with her friendships, just like with second guessing herself, which is something she talks about a lot in her music and her interviews. And I mean, the tagline of the interview being straight people don't exist to me, immediately I was like, she just doesn't give a fuck. And I'm obsessed. And that's what I mean when I say like, please, Reneé Rapp, never get media trained because we need people like you. We need this level of like not giving a fuck and saying what we want and like being so confident with it, not being cocky, not being rude, not being a bitch. She is being so just true to herself. And I'm obsessed with it. I love somebody being a diva. It tickles something inside of me. So she opened up in the interview saying that she was focusing on being more present. And when you think back to her EP and her albums and, you know, the whole premise of her first EP was I can't be everything to everyone, which clearly you can't be present in your own life if you are trying to be everything to everyone and spreading yourself so thin. So to look back at that, it was 2022, and now 3 years later that she's really working on being more present. Even she talks about in 2L, she says, I get so sick of myself, can't stop overthinking. Like we really met her as somebody who was so stuck in her brain and so consumed in what everybody else was thinking and wanting to be a people pleaser and wanting to do everything for everybody. So to see that she is becoming more present and more aware of who she's surrounding herself with and the people in her life and the music she's putting out and things like that, it's cool to see this growth and see this kind of evolution through her career, not just through her music, but through the press that she's doing as well. She also opened up about the fact that like people worry that like if you're in a happy relationship and you are somebody who wrote heartbreak songs in the past, like, is the music gonna suck? In which she responded, I was always under the impression that I had to be miserable to make good music. I don't think you have to torture yourself in order to make something good. Some of the most talented artists in the world have been in healthy and happy relationships. I've had more good days than I've ever had in my life in this relationship, and I feel like I've made music that's better than anything I've ever made. And immediately after reading that, I just thought about Gaga with Mayhem, which obviously came out earlier this year, and she's obviously happily engaged and it's like over the moon in love with Michael, and she's putting out this killer music. And she is an artist who for so long was looked at as this like tortured artist, and she had to be sad and going through all of these things to put out good music. But Gaga is a perfect example of somebody who you can be perfectly happy in your life and your relationship and still put out insanely good music, even if it is touching on kind of sadder subjects or things like that. Like, I think this idea of like a tortured artist, we're kind of losing that, and we're realizing that like you don't have to torture yourself or be sad or be depressed or be heartbroken or go through loss or grief or anything to really like understand what it means to make good music. You know, like you don't have to put yourself through that to experience that. And I think it's really cool to see a lot of new artists talking about this. Not even just new artists. Gaga's been around forever, but like Reneé, like all these artists who are being like, I'm in a happy relationship and I can still make great music. It's like, I think for so long we wanted that tortured artist idea. And I talked about this on my Mayhem album review episode where like we longed for that. We wanted the heartbreak songs. Look at when Taylor Swift released Tortured Poets Department. Like we were so excited to be like, oh my God, she got her heart broken and what are we going to learn about? And like, even in that, like she was with Travis when it came out. She wasn't necessarily like heartbroken at the time, but we did, you know, get to see like people were so excited over this idea of like heartbreak and a heartbreak album, and people like fiend over it, which I understand. Heartbreak music is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I love a breakup album. Melodrama by Lorde is one of my favorite albums of all time, if not my favorite album of all time. Lemonade by Beyonce, a heartbreak album. They're fucking great. But you don't need to put yourself through that torture to release great music. And I love that that is something that she is really focusing on and being more present about. Something else she talked about is that she doesn't feel like she's being used in this relationship anymore, whether it was like being used for her name or for her house or for her money or for her fame, whatever it was. In the past, she said that her friends would look at her and be like, hey, this person is literally using you because you're Reneé Rapp and because you have access to XYZ. And she said for the first time in her life, this relationship doesn't feel like that. And I was thinking back to her music, and like when you listen to Pretty Girls, though she's not talking about getting used specifically for her name or anything, the whole premise of that song is a straight woman who has a boyfriend using you to kind of experiment and play around with her sexuality. But then when she wakes up in the morning, she goes back to her boyfriend and like everything acts like it doesn't happen. So that same idea of like using somebody for your own gain when you're not getting anything back. So to see that she feels so confident and in love and happy in this relationship, it just proves that point of like, you don't need to put yourself through being the side piece or being the one who gets heartbroken or played or used to make good music or to create anything. You can really do it in any aspect of your life. You know, it's cool to see that she's so open about the way that her mind has changed over the last few years, and her career's only just started. I mean, she opened on Broadway for Mean Girls, 2020, and now we're only 5 years later. Like, she has such a long career ahead of her. So to see that she's already realizing this and kind of sifting through the people who use her, whether it's a friend or a relationship or things like that, like we're really seeing an evolution of her brain. It feels like, or this sounds so parasocial. It's not what I mean to do, but it's just, you know, when you read these things and you're somebody like me who loves pop culture and loves to analyze things, like that's what I get from this. She goes on to say that the times that I was overthinking relationships were because I was with people that I didn't like, but I was trying to make it work because I like to keep myself miserable. There's such a big difference when you are with someone who gives you basic human decency. And also my girlfriend is just really hot. I don't need to overthink it. And it's, again, it goes into that idea of like, she's weeding out these people who might have used her. She opened up a lot about like finding a queer community, which we'll talk about in a second. And I think there's this, like I said, she's back and gayer than ever. She's really like finding her footing in the queer community, which can be intimidating. Is if you know, finding your queer spaces and going into a queer space as a baby gay or, you know, whatever, like it can be scary and intimidating because you feel like everybody there has a friend group, knows everybody, knows everything. You're like, is this taboo? Do I know what I'm doing? And it's like, nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody is experiencing everything for the first time. Everybody is living their life for the first time. And it's like, as soon as you realize that everybody had to walk into a gay space for the first time at some point in their life, everybody had to make their first friend in a queer community at some point in their life. Like there's such a relief that is lifted. And that's something that I experienced in my 20s, a little bit later in my 20s than Reneé is, which is why I think I resonate so much with it, because it's nice to see that like younger generations are realizing this now. And maybe I just was, because I was, you know, more on Long Island, which is more, you know, not as gay as Manhattan by all means. But, you know, coming into a queer space, you really have to, not that you have to learn a lot, but it can be intimidating. And I remember talking about this on my episode. It was about Chaperone and Doechii. I think it was like The World Needs Chaperone and Doechii or something along those lines with the title. And Chapel was talking about the first time that she went to a drag show and she was intimidated and she like didn't know what to think of it. She was like, I don't understand what I'm seeing. I don't know how I'm supposed to digest this. And like, it was such something that resonated with younger Andrew. So when I'm reading these articles and hearing these, you know, these queer, gay, lesbian artists, or just anyone talking about these experiences, it's so nice that there are people talking about the awkward times in a queer experience or a gay experience, or like when you're first coming into that queer friend group, or, you know, surrounding yourself with these people and you're kind of like, I don't know, like, do I fit in? Do I not? Like, you know, it's what's the word? It's a unique experience that I feel like a lot of us go through, but it's not talked about as much. So I really love hearing people talk about it and like seeing their experience with it. And then my favorite part from the entire thing is when she gives advice to queer people in the current political climate. She says, find your community. Your community will do its best to keep you safe. Really rely on people around you who are maybe more comfortable or less at risk than you are. We kind of have to have a pact among certain friends of mine that is like, I can take a way bigger blow than you can. Let me do that shit. I'm not going to let my friend who exists in a trans body go out and put themselves at risk because they immediately have a way bigger target on their back. There was such a dire need for protection, and the government is not going to give that to you. And it really is so powerful to hear somebody saying that and to understand that like we are all have to have each other's back. And now more than ever, just like I was saying at the top of the episode, like this Pride Month more than ever, we really need to use our voices in these queer, gay, lesbian spaces and remind everybody like, we're not going down without a fight. Like we are here to stay. Like Pride was a riot. Pride started as a riot. And I think that's kind of gotten lost over the last few years. You say it every year, you know, Stonewall, who threw the first brick, this, that, the third, but it becomes more of like a celebration, which is great. And trust me, I will be having a tequila soda times 15 every weekend during Pride Month. I love to celebrate Pride as much as the next person. Bring $1, tip your drag queens. You know, I love all the fun and celebrations behind it. But hearing what she's saying and like knowing where we are in the current political climate, it is so important to understand like your role in your friend group or your community, whatever it is. Like she said, if you are with somebody who identifies as trans, like unfortunately, and this pains me to say, like they are at a bigger risk right now of not being protected. They literally have taken the T out of LGBTQIA plus on every government website. And there is no more trans help, no information about traveling as a trans person, about how to get help. Like there is just no support for the trans community right now. And it breaks my heart. So to see an artist like Reneé, who has such a dedicated, loyal following and is, you know, on this kind of up and up in her career and is kind of, you know, coming into this new era and is really buzzy right now. It's really admirable to see somebody using their platform and their voice to speak up about this, especially like this whole thing is about the current political climate. A lot of people aren't willing to talk up about trans rights. And, you know, it's nice to see that, you know, we haven't lost everybody in this fight. And it just, like I said, it just feels like she's really found herself and she's really comfortable and happy in the place where she's at in her life. So I'm just so excited for this album, for this era. I think she's going to give us the most like Reneé coded music as possible. And I feel like Snow Angel was really, you know, telling, and there was so much of her life put into that album. But I just feel like we're going to get even closer to her on this album. And I'm really, really looking forward to hearing everything she has to say on this album. Reneé Rapp, you've always got a fan in me. Reneé Rapp is back. She is gayer than ever, and I could not be happier. And that wraps up our main segment of the show. Just so excited to see that Reneé Rapp is back and making music again, which is just fabulous. Which, now that we have wrapped that up, means we have made it to the second to last segment of the show. It is time for our TV recap, and I am sorry, I am behind on Drag Race. This happens every summer when All Stars is airing. I just get so wrapped up. I mean, you guys know how busy I've been. I did the whole spiel at the beginning of the show, Cowboy Carter, Nola, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, there's been a lot going on. So I apologize. I will catch up. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch this entire second bracket, do a whole recap of bracket number 2. And then I think I'll do that for the third as well. That way I'm not like having to watch. And if I'm busy, I'm going to do bracket 2 recap next week. And then I'm going to do bracket 3 recap. And then we'll recap live as we go on from there. So I apologize. Please do not shoot me. I've been busy, and I promise you, I want to watch it as much as you guys want to hear me recap it, but we will watch it when I can watch it. However, I have been watching some other TV, which I wanted to share with you guys, and I'm not the first or only person talking about these shows. I just want to begin on the conversation because I'm obsessed. First and foremost, Benny Drama, Benito Skinner's new show, Overcompensating. If you have not watched it yet, what are you waiting for? It was fucking hilarious. Thomas and I, my boyfriend, we watched it in literally less than 24 hours because we could not turn it off. It is silly. It is funny. It touches on, you know, the queer experience, the gay experience, about coming out in college, not knowing how to come out and confront that with people, and wanting to fit in, but not knowing how to, and finding your tribe and finding that community of people that you need so badly when you're a queer person or you're a gay person, whatever, however you identify. It was perfect. It was 10 out of 10. It is everywhere. It's like the number 1 show on Amazon right now. But if you have not watched Overcompensating yet, truly phenomenal. I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait for season 2. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but my fingers are crossed. My toes are crossed. I am banking on a season 2 for this show because I loved it that much. Congratulations to the entire cast for all of the, you know, all of the acclaimed and everyone talking about it. It is everywhere. It's going crazy viral. If you are looking for a silly show to watch this summer, watch Overcompensating. It is fantastic. I also watched all of season 1 and 2 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which I was so late to the party, but as soon as I got on that party bus, bitch, I was going full speed. These girls are crazy. So I am all caught up. And I do need to say, there's got to be a part 2 for season 2, right? Like the way that it ended, there's definitely got to be more to this era of them, right? Like it can't just end like that. I feel like they're leaving it for like, maybe we're going to get like a part 2 or like, you know, 1 extra episode or something. Like something else has to come. I couldn't find anything about it, but I just like the way that it ended. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so I'm not going to, but I was just like, we've got to get more, right? Like there has to be something else coming before season 3. I hope, I pray. Thoughts on this show really quick. We'll go through the girls really fast. Demi and Whitney are the worst. I do not like them. Nope, not a fan. I like Demi on season 1. The way that she came in so just like mean-spirited and rotted season 2, but tried to act like she was this champion and like had the better like arm up or better hand up, whatever the saying is, for mom talk. Also, the way that they refer to mom talk as if it's a person, I'm obsessed. But Demi is just rotted and evil. The fact that she tried to kick Jessie off the show, her best friend, to get more money, rotted. The fact that she was telling Taylor not to go to Jay-Z Styles, Jessie, her best friend's salon, rotted. She's a bad seed. I do not like her. Whitney, didn't like in season 1. I don't like her in season 2. I'm not a fan of Whitney. However, I love Macy and Michaela. I think they are the only true, genuine friendship on this show. I think the two of them being pregnant together is so adorable, and I'm obsessed. I think they have the best head on their shoulders. They're the most real, the most realistic. They know how to actually address a conflict, and, you know, they stand their ground. They know what they want. They are so they're making great TV, but also not being bitchy, backstabbing people while doing it. I love the two of them so much. I appreciate the way that Taylor always knows exactly what she wants to say and how to say it. She doesn't let anybody walk all over her, besides, I guess, Dakota. But the girls I'm talking about, she fully will like go in, guns a-blazing, ready to say what she wants, and she will read somebody down. Like, she knows how to say what she wants, communicate what she wants, and get her shit done. I love her. And I love that she's like not backing down from like her being the starter of Mom Talk, even though the girls want that title so incredibly bad. Also, Taylor sending Demi Jay-Z Styles PR after airing out her dirty laundry that she told people not to go to Jesse's salon. Incredible. I was rolling. I was in hysterics when they opened that. It was so funny. Also, the way that she voted for Demi to be out of Mom Talk when they weren't even voted. And they were like, oh, what about Demi? She goes, no. She goes, we're not voting for me. She was like, oh, sorry. Hysterical. I love Taylor. She is hilarious. I'm obsessed with her. I'm really curious to see what happens with Jesse and Demi next season. Like, I just don't see their friendship coming back from this. I just think Demi has crossed too many lines and is just a rotted person. And I really like Jesse. I loved Jesse season 1. I loved her season 2. I'm a fan of Jesse. I like her a lot. I just think like the things that Demi has said and done they're inexcusable. And especially as your best friend, like, you don't speak about or speak to people that way. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Who else? Layla. I've come around to Layla. At first, I was like, I wasn't fully in on her. I do like her now. I think she served a purpose on the show. I did not like the way that she didn't back up Taylor when she said she was going to, when they were in New York, and she was like, I'll have your back, don't worry. And then it was crickets when Demi was attacking her. Did not like that. But Demi's scary. I get it. I wouldn't want to get in the line of fire either. But like, you gotta, you can't be all bark, no bite. And that's kind of what I was getting from her. But I do like her. I think she adds a nice element to the show. Who else? Jen. I went into season 2 so happy that Jen was single and doing her thing. And when Kyle, right, her husband's name, when Kyle moved back into the house and then she got pregnant and like then she had to leave the show because her mental health, like, it broke my heart. But I was also like, what are we doing? Why are we letting this man back in our lives when we know he's not good for you? Like, this is not going to end well because it didn't end well the first time. And like, why are we doing this whole runaround again? It just, it upsets me. And I don't know if Jen's going to be back next season. Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like filming the show is good for her when she's in a relationship. They're like oil and water. They don't mix. And I just think when they are together, Jen shouldn't be on the show when they're together. It's either Jen is single and on the show and in Mom Talk, or she is married with kids, not in the show, not in Mom Talk, doing her own thing. And then Miranda, the new girl this season, I liked her a lot. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about her knowing the story going into it. But as she went on, I think she really, came into her own and like she added something fun to the group. And I was happy that they added her in. And I think she was good in the mix, and I really liked her, and I am hooked on this show now. So very excited for season 3 or whatever season 2 part 2 is, whatever it may be. We will see. But that is my TV recap. Love Island starts tonight on Tuesday. Still not sure how I'm going to recap that, because I'm going to tell you right now, if I can't watch Drag Race once a week, I'm not watching Love Island every single day. I just can't commit to that. It is a lot. However, I do want to watch, and I will be watching. I just don't know how. If anybody would be interested, please DM me, tweet me, let me know. What if I did like a Substack exclusive episode every week, like a 30-minute recap talking about it, or something like that, like where it's not in the regular podcast, because there's so much that happens. If there is enough people who want it, I will do it. And I'll talk about Love Island like as it goes and as we do it. But I'm telling you right now, I know myself, and self-awareness is something I'm practicing in 2025. I'm not watching it every single night. It's going to be a lot, I know. So I'll see how I cover that. We'll take it as we go. But that being said, that brings us to the final segment of the show. We end every single episode of Too Pop to Handle with a yes and a mess. We always start things on a high note, which is my yes, something I am loving from the week. And my yes this week is Miss Ashley Tisdale. So this goes back a few weeks ago. She shared on her Instagram story or on TikTok that her daughter has had a newfound love of High School Musical, which like taste. But she said that this love has gotten so strong that she is sitting in a grocery store cart and screaming, "My mom is Sharpay!" And she won't stop singing the songs, but she wants to watch only High School Musical. And you know what? I'm obsessed. I love it. I think seeing this generation of Disney stars, Hilary Duff had a similar situation where she was saying, my daughter only wants to listen to my music, and I'm listening to my music in my car, driving around LA, and people are looking at me in the driver's seat, blasting my own music, like mortifying. So now we're seeing Ashley Tisdale kind of go through the same thing. And you know what? I love seeing this era of Disney Channel stars, Nickelodeon stars, and their kids just like their kids realizing who their parents are and really like coming into the iconography that is Sharpay Evans. Absolutely obsessed. And then on the flip side of that, Phineas and Ferb is making a comeback, which I used to be obsessed with Phineas and Ferb when I was like in middle and high school and it was airing. Those songs slapped. They knew what they were doing to create an original song for a cartoon. Unbelievable music from that show. That being said, they are rebooting it, I guess, and bringing it back. And they did this whole premiere over the weekend. And Ashley Tisdale was up on that stage singing all of the old Phineas and Ferb songs. And when you think of some of these Disney stars, they would not have gotten up there. There was no check big enough to get up there and sing Squirrels in My Pants or Busted or, Gitchy Gitchy Goo. Like so many of these Disney Channel stars would not have gotten up on a stage and sang anything from their Disney Channel era because they're like too cool for it. Ashley Tisdale was up there singing these songs, dancing along, having the best time. She's on a whole press tour for Phineas and Ferb right now. And she is such a class act. And like, she's so gracious and graceful with the way that she talks about her past experiences on Disney Channel. And, we know about the whole Nickelodeon thing and, we know how like child stars can not always turn out the best way. So to see Ashley Tisdale like taking the high road and like embracing this Disney Channel past that she has and like not being embarrassed by it, she is a queen. We love her. And there is no other option for my yes of the week. And moving on to my mess of the week, something I am not loving. Now, this is a situation that I didn't even want to research that much because it made me so sick. And this isn't even like a funny one. I'm not even doing this. Sometimes I do the mess as like a bit. I want to end making us laugh. This is so disturbing to me and just off-putting. It is the whole Miss Shirley situation. And now I'm not going to call this 3-year-old Miss Shirley this entire segment, but for research purposes, if anybody who does not know, Miss Shirley is, I believe she's 3 or 4 years old, and she is like a viral TikTok sensation. She does dances on TikTok. It's cute. She's cute. She's on like the Jennifer Hudson show. She has like an old soul, and that's what really made her like go viral to begin with. Which is fine. I think it's cute. I mean, there's laws now for child influencers and things like that. I think it's adorable. Cool. Over the last week or so, it got taken to a level that is so disturbing to me. And her mother decided to host a Miss Shirley meet and greet. Mind you, Miss Shirley is the 4-year-old. She hosted a meet and greet at a club in which grown men and women could purchase a ticket to go meet and hold and have this little girl sit on their lap. I don't care if you drove 5 minutes, if you drove an hour, if you are like the sick grown man that I saw on TikTok who drove 3 hours to meet this little girl. If you attended and paid for this meet and greet with this toddler, I need you on a list. I need you to be looked into. I need your internet browser to be studied. I need you to not be living in a 30-mile radius of any schools or playgrounds. You are a sick individual, and I don't care however you want to spin it. Oh, I love her videos. She's so funny. She's so cute. She brings me joy. I don't fucking care. It is so disturbing to me that grown adults are going to meet a 4-year-old, putting her on their lap, holding them, whatever it is. I don't care if you pay $10, $50, $600. It is disgusting. And for the mother of said 4-year-old, because I cannot call her Miss Shirley anymore, because it's like, why are we calling a 4-year-old as if she is a 40-year-old woman? That mother needs to be interrogated, studied, questioned, and I do believe CPS was called on her, which I would never wish on anybody. However, in this situation, when there is a child at harm and being put in the hands of grown men for a buck, put her in the interrogation chair. It is disgusting. And like I said, I didn't do much research because I truly couldn't stomach what I was seeing and reading. It is just vile. It is disgusting. And I cannot believe that this is the world that we are living in. And that is my mess. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Too Pop to Handle. Thank you guys for waiting out in the week. I know it was only a week, but I always feel bad when I skip a week. If you were listening as a podcast and you like what you heard, remember, it only costs $0 to leave a 5-star rating. It would mean the world to me. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and hit subscribe, drop a comment, do all of the things. If you were looking for some extra moments from the week that were just too pop to handle in between episodes, subscribe to my Substack newsletter. I'll have it linked down below. You can follow us on socials at Too Pop to Handle. Like I said, I have a lot of really fun events coming up this week, so it's a good week to follow me. You can follow my personals at Andrew Nucatola across all platforms. And with that, I will catch you guys next week. Bye.